Try and give you a hint.
Okay. Well, welcome. I'm very happy to welcome you to the fourth in the series of the Young Adult Writer Series from the Missoula Public Library and the Missoula Writing Collaborative. And tonight we have members of the collaborative reading from their works, and they will be accompanied by Dick Ostheimer, percussionist. And so I'm very, very happy to welcome you to Bojangles, and would like to thank Harley for allowing us to be here tonight. Thank you, Harley. And to welcome Cheryl Nothy, Sally Koba, and Karen Schultz, thank you, to our reading tonight. And to all of you who would like to share your reading also, please feel free to come up afterwards, and we'll have a short break, and that'll give us an opportunity to write down names and to be able to introduce you. So thanks a lot, and I'd like to turn it over to Cheryl.
Kundalini, yeah. I will try and speak really loudly, and if you can't hear me, just make a sign or something, okay? The first poem that I'm going to read is called Kundalini, and Kundalini comes from Eastern religion and yoga, in the belief that there is a snake coiled at the bottom of the spine, and at middle age or younger, if you're a practitioner, this snake unwinds and goes up your spine, releasing the life energy into your crown chakra and out to join the universe. So I never thought about it or practiced it until this thing happened, and then I wrote this poem about it, and the poem is called Kundalini. Last night, as we lay curled together in that place, reverie, we felt a current of electricity pass between us. Did you feel that? I asked. Yes, he said. I sure did. It came from you, I told him, and moved right up my spine. No, he said. It came from you and went down into my thighs. Kundalini, I wondered? Snake in spine uncurling? I lay awake and imagined the stars through the ceiling. The little dog crept up to sleep beside me. Honey, I whispered, I think this is a good sign. But he was already dreaming, said, oh, oh, oh. He had gone ahead of me into that dark country. This next poem is a poem about Marvin Gaye, whose death was never properly mourned in this country. I was living in D.C. the day he died, and it was this miraculous day of dancing and mourning. A poem I wrote 15 years ago and have since forgotten shows up in a collection of women's humor, for which I am paid $37.50. I wrote that poem in a Roach Motel, across the street from the theater where Lincoln was killed. I wrote that poem in the days when I woke up still drunk to cry about my life. The W fell off the sign outside our window, turning waffle shop into awful shop. Pink neon illuminated the face of a man dead out with red wine. On the day that Marvin died, record stores cranked up their speakers and opened their doors, flooding us with his song. People standing on the street and at the bus stop started dancing, sexy and gentle. Everyone was sad, and it was hot. Big ladies wiped their faces and shook their heads, said, "A man like that." I called my friends in Minneapolis. Well, outside, DC swayed. No one there seemed especially hip to the loss we had all suffered. They were not shaking their hips in the street and sweating, and some of us cried. It seemed to me America never fully mourned the loss of Marvin Gaye, beside the city of his birth, which has never recovered. But that day, in the heated core of the city, bus exhaust and carbon monoxide rising, tired legs shifting weight back and forth, Marvin sang, "Let's get it on," and we did. Today, a check comes in the mail for that old poem, while I am lying on the couch looking at nothing, where I used to sit and write. Sometimes now I think about career instead. This is how the mind works, sometimes, or stops working and lets the reptiles loose. In the same way an old man could shoot his son. In the same way a voice is stopped forever, or just long enough to be forgotten. But I no longer live at the offal shop, and I got some money in the mail for a poem that came flashing across my bed in pink neon. When Marvin died, DC mourned, I fled. This one is about migraine now. The next poem is called Migraine. It's called Half Head, which means migraine. And it's all true. Cranial vasoconstriction precipitated by irritability and rage. Massive, slow potential deep within the brain radiates to open the gates of pain within the spine. Visual tumult, delirium in which latticed, faceted, and tessellated motifs predominate. I lie on the cool wood floor behind the chair. The little dog comes over to rest his head on mine. Medicine dog. He forces his nose into my neck and breathes and shudders. I count my pulse by the explosions in my temples. Small animals chase back and forth. Insects march the edges. 5 days pass where landmines behind my eyes respond only to light. Scintillating scotoma, light swallowed by dark, launched by expanding phosphenes, geometric spectra, vicious circles, implicit in the cerebral repertoire from spinal horn to brainstem formation, innate resonance mechanism on the borderlands of epilepsy, ascending bombardment of the cortex, which responds with activity all its own. In the emergency room, I hold my head in my hands in dark glasses. The nurse walks in with the secret to my well-being, a needle full of Imitrex, which explodes behind my shoulder to close my throat. My limbs burn. Heat rises into my head. Lie down, she says. Wait for it to work. First, the beating of the heart was felt, which became audible as sound. 2 lights appeared before the eyes. The figure of an old woman in a red cloak offered something with the smell of Tonkin beans. Slowly, my throat opens. The burn ceases and the great gong of my skull is still. I do not have the nightmare that leaves the bad taste in my mouth. I do not hear the first birds as the gray lifts. Head sore as a basketball, I walk through the house like I am walking on ice. I do not make any sudden moves. The great bruise of my head is restful. There is no echo. Get a needle of your own, the nurse tells me. She mimes a hand, releasing a plunger into her thigh. When the headache comes, shoot this into your leg. It closed my throat, I tell her. Only for a while, she says. I was afraid, I say, that I would die. Yes, she says, but the question is, isn't it worth it? In the form of hallucinatory display, an entire self-organizing system, a universal behavior at work, holds not only the secrets of the neurons deep within the brain, but the creative heart of nature itself. The outskirts of the visual area boil over with tumultuous light, particular symptoms to which particular symbolic values are attached. Dynamic patterns illuminate the substrate of the mind. Organize to destroy. Organize to destroy. I run my mind over the roof of my head like a tongue at a tooth, wonderingly. Where did the headache go? And for how long? I am like a man who survives an airplane crash to walk out of a bloody cornfield. This is a love poem about chaos. Slept beneath you on a narrow cot last night, your long hair tumbling down, although I hear when you married you cut it off. Disoriented with love and yours again, I don't think chaos is so mysterious. If there's no overriding force and no reason, if heroic love simply disappears over a few inconsequential events, one silly winter, your silence, my motorcyclist, and the one woman at the bar more desperate than I was, you married her. Temper and all, low self-regard. After that, I never saw you. She made you get rid of your dog? I went on a wild carnival ride across New York and on into Idaho. Good things happened in spite of myself. However, there are still days I awaken addled with loss over something you said drunk in a pizza parlor in South Dakota. Those miles of icy highway we swerved, drunk on the farm with the northern lights luminous over the junked cars, shooting guns from our bed. I have been chasing you since childhood. Bike, bar, Greyhound bus. I dragged my suitcase over the rutted field toward the single light bulb on your porch, your chicken-killing dog. For years I watched the windows of your house for a sign. If there are no larger patterns here, if it's simply entropy and momentum, a bunch of inescapable laws in a crazy salad, if it's only barometric pressure and ricocheting electrons, if you simply flew into space due to torque and inflection, and I was flipped 8 ways to market in the opposite way with no underlying intent, then I am broken here, crushed by belief, to summon you in sleep, to wake and live in grief. I'm going to finish with a piece called Hidden in a Better Place. This is a Christmas poem. And the style in which it's written is called the acrostic, where you write the word like Christmas up and down on the page, then your first line has to start with a C, and your next with an H, and your next with an R. So this says Christmas, Christmas, over and over. Those were the difficulties of the structure I had to work within. So Dick, the tone here is hysterical, holiday. Okay. Murderous Norwegian family. Okay. Christmas at our house was live from hell. No one could rise above their problems long enough to invest the season with any hope. Someone missed Christmas dinner. Someone else was very drunk. Someone cried. Tom was having another emotional crisis involving my mother's car, whiskey, pornography, and several prostitutes. Year after year we went on. Horrible dinners. Everyone wept crocodile tears or else ignored each other completely. Hell. Uncle Melvin passed a bottle of red wine, offered some to me with red eyes, and metaphoric cigar. I avoided him. Sometimes Aunt Avis brought a bottle and cried about the daddy. Man so mean, all his kids need medication and only seem to be listening. Casinos are where Bob and I go Christmas Eve to hear bells ring and see lights wink. I order the fish platter and a diet soda. We toast peace of mind and zero population growth. Maybe later we'll climb Jumbo with the dogs and yell our best regards to the city beneath us, sparkling with all the false hope in the world. Christmas Eve, my brother hauled out the deer rifle and shot right through the walls and ceilings from my parents' bed. I was working in Idaho, didn't hear about it for months. Said to my dad on the phone that I would call the police, that alcoholics who play with guns are not a laughing matter. And of course, my dad went on automatic pilot and said in a toneless voice that this time my brother had scared himself and this just might stop the drinking. And then he told me he'd hidden the rifle in a better place. Of course, the best year was the one my Aunt Beatrice stole the cop car. He was an innocent, one of her newer dates, a man who had never really seen her seriously loaded. So after they argued some in Aunt Donna's living room, Aunt Beatrice stole the keys from his coat and tried to teach herself to drive in his squad car, making great smashing crashes into the cars behind and then in front of her. Christmas Eve, the red lights were swinging across all of our faces, standing in the snow in the front lawn. She was always like that. She only dated cops. Carolers frighten me. Holidays are evil duties. Relish tray. Marshmallow fruit salad. I would not like codfish boiled in lye. Sweets disappear into the mouth of the love-shaped void. Tom is downstairs, and I wonder where that gun is hidden. My mother went all out again this year. All of the sisters chain smoke in the kitchen. Same old shit, men doze before the game. Can we put this thing to rest? Call a halt to the march of the wrapping paper? Rapture to sit in my living room in silence, teetotaling, maybe a few dogs on the couch. All of us simply stunned by the rapacity of appetite. Thank you, Dick. Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm next. I'm Sally Kobaugh, and the first poems that I'm going to read are prose poems. That means they look like prose on the page. There's not really line breaks in them, and so Dick is just going to have they're kind of little stories in the beginning. So I guess he's going to have a regular steady beat in the background or something like that. And this first one's called Love, and it's about when I was in the first grade. So. Love. In spring, I spent the night at Tammy's. She had twin sisters and lived in a trailer. One day she brought in the best doll, and then we were friends. This doll was remarkable for pissing in its big head. There was a boy named Lincoln who was born with a short leg. He wore a special elevator shoe and limped after us to the jungle gym. Grabbing my hands on the shiny bars, I twirled with clenched fingers until I blistered. And then the girl fell off the slide, and there were bloodstains on the concrete. There was a kid who wasn't in school yet. He had a crew cut and wore overalls. During recess, we stood on our side of the fence like an army. Red Rover, come over, fatty, we would yell. Hansel boy, close your eyes. Stick your fat finger through the fence. Or, there were twigs, grass, and gravel to gather and throw at him. One Saturday, I went to Tammy's trailer and colored until her sister licked stars on our sheets. I preferred doing women's dresses the best, striping them. We both wanted the mint green crayon. The wind came suddenly, stirring our papers about the room. The mint curtains blew loosely, and then the rain came, a soft wintry rain, sounding like blueberries landing in a tin cup. At night, we watched the building falling down, crashing in fire, and people screaming. The blue sleeping bag was damp from our bath. We had drawn letters on each other's backs through soap bubbles. The next day, her mother fixed us eggs, which I hate because they run. I cried because I couldn't stand it, the white part of the egg. Then Tammy led me to the piano, where she hurt my fingers teaching me a song. Her father had a beard and a gun. It said, "Don't go over 10 miles per hour." Then I stole my mother's ring and gave it to Tammy on the bus. Her face lit up. She bit into the bright apple appliqued on the chest of my shirt. "Yum, yum, yum," she said, but it hurt, so I cried. Her mother called my mother. You know how it is. I'm sure you know how it is. Okay. Now we're on to the second grade, and this is called Dog Pants. And I used to have a pair of pants that I loved that had dogs all over them, so hence the title. Dog Pants. In the second grade, it was about the yellow carpet, sitting with your legs crossed while the girl in back of you put a fake egg down your head, touched your cheeks and shoulders, and the teacher's nails were red. You floated above the clock. You decide to pick violets in the weeds beyond the playground. You have your dog pants on and your tennis shoes. Today you ran under the parachute again. In the weeds, your shoes got muddy. You do some hopscotch, pick up a pebble as if to throw it, your purple and white poncho lifting away from your body. You have your dog pants on. The air is cold, too cold for the dog pants. But the sun is bright, so bright that you squint in the photo outside with the class, hunched over, unhappy with your hair blowing. You wet a paper towel and wrap the wilted flowers gently and place them on your desk. You have your dog pants on. The teacher walks by. You want to give her your flowers, but you don't. You carry them home on the bus, run down the hill, and then you throw them on the ground. And then you get sick with a bad cold. Eric Belford says how pretty your hair looks when it's brushed, and you spend the night in Dayton staring out at buildings, and you dance with the husband in your pajamas. That may be kind of complicated to follow, I don't know. It sounded like it just then when I read it. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, now I'm moving into adulthood. This poem is called Butte, and this is from a series of love poems. And I have them from cities all over Montana, Phillipsburg, Yak, Butte. And Butte's one of my favorite ones, so I thought I'd do that one. Okay, Butte. It seemed to be our honeymoon. We left on Friday afternoon and knew that our friends would call later and complain. This did not matter. You drove, and I wore your baseball hat backwards because this was my life gone a different route. Not backwards, but I felt heady from my cigarettes, and you called it my wild girl phase. Eddie's room cost us $30, and Eddie had a big scar running down his face. There was a zigzagged red line in neon underneath Eddie outside. Our room smelled of Lysol, and I breathed it in. We ate our dinner at the Red Rooster, and our waitress was a hunchback giant in black who used a cart to wheel our food. That night, we just lay in Eddie's bed, curled around each other. The next morning, I got up first and moved the chair away from the door and walked out into the freshest day ever. I had never felt so good. 2 women were coming to clean our room, and the Indian woman told me that she liked my shoes. I crossed the highway to get us coffee, but there was none. We left Eddie's by noon. We stopped at some places, but we mostly drove. Now it's deep in our minds, the copper mines, the depleted houses sagging, the gray, dull sky. In your mind and mine somehow. We looked in windows of the Copper King's mansion. Then we ate Chinese food downtown. These stranded people, the plump Chinese woman in red with her head bent over a newspaper. Okay, and here's one that's kind of in the same series, and this is called Vacation Spot. And this is about going to some hot springs. So here's Vacation Spot. A little piece of heaven, hot springs that we reached after walking through the snow. Naked on the cold March day beneath the springs, then we found the vacation spot. Rows of empty cabins overlooking a rushing creek, one used for whitewater rafting. We were the only ones there at this time of year, but for some odd reason, the owner kept the hot tub on. We left our little cabin and went to the tub. For the second time that day, took off our clothes. This had to have been better. That's the end of that poem. Okay. Okay. This one is called Flathead Lake 1, and it's also in the series. Okay. What did you look for? Were the questions answered? Over the gray snow we walked. Do you recall the gray snow? What do you call the woman who sings all day? Did she lean out of the balcony? Could you hear the saxophone? What pleasure are you looking for? And then we walked along the lake. The day remained still. Is this written down? Do you remember the whole of it? Did it feel too contained? If this is just a joke, the moon poured light on her slender legs. We had to walk for miles down the lonely beach. What were you looking for? There were several reasons. And then, you see, it started to snow so badly we were forced to stay. Why did you lie like a child? Don't you see she was crying? This is just one place they went to. There was the hotel room by the lake, the view of the still water, the balcony they leaned over smoking cigarettes, the waitress who forgot the pepper, and then he went back to bed, or smoked a cigarette in the chair naked, and then she went back to bed, and the snow continued to fall in the lake. Yes, the snow continued to fall. Okay. This is a poem that I just wrote, and it's about when I went up into the rattlesnake at night one time, and I was just sitting there with a friend of mine, and someone came by, and it was kind of, we had a moment of fear, like, is this person going to do anything to us? So, and nothing happened, but this poem came out of that. So it's just called Rattlesnake Night in August. Okay. And this first line kind of mimics a Wallace Stevens poem. If you know that, just I'll tell you. I know I'm copying it. So, the truck was quiet and the earth was still. The can was poised upon your angled knee, in which like trees rose darkly, quietly. A humble song spilled from the radio. We saw the stars. They arced and fell to us. I said, have you heard this final story? The world, it starts again and leaves us here. We grope for answers in shiny moonlight, for words pouted out of our swollen mouths. My mouth was cave-like, damp, and like a womb, fluid-filled but colorful, a dark blue. Remind me of bicycles and laughter. Now, baby, the sun came and went with you. They say I was clay between your fingers. That night, when the man dragged a sack that looked like a body tumbling on the ground, the high beams burned a hole through his t-shirt, you said, don't speak, don't say a single word. He marked a trail because the bundle sagged with weight. His eyes were sad like an old man's. His trunk rose up, an angle in the sky, geometry, a mute triangle there. His arms were folded neatly around his chest. His head was lifted towards an unknown point. That night, we sat so still inside the truck. In movies, this is what happens. They take the man away and shoot him in the head. They steal the girl and rape her while she cries. And no one hears her awful screams. Her voice lessens and lessens until there is none. The man's gun was like a child's pistol. The car began to putter down the road. Remember, this time it was a story. Into that one. Okay. This poem is called Wonderful. Your collar is rough against your face. Snow won't stop. The baby went everywhere with me. Every night at 10 they call. I listen from the steps, fold my hands over my face. I'm torn. My ankle's broke. Every day I sit outside waiting. I think my mother will come, but she's inside trying on dresses. When the dress is the color of yellow leaves, why does it matter? My father is where it hurts. He's meaner than a bullet. Should I say tricky? There was a boy sucking on his fingers. That's all I remember. Okay, this is my last one, and this is called You. And it's just a simple chant poem. I guess you could call it a chant poem. And it's just like a series of impressions of somebody that I know. I compare him to many different things in this poem, but you'll get the idea after a while. You. You're a city wall covered with graffiti. You're a safe ready to be broken into. You're a dog in a kennel. You're a mask from Korea. You're a baby with a toothache. You're a piece of bread. You're City Hall. You're Frank Sinatra. You're green moss on a rock. You're a rare species of bird with a red crown and a black tail. You're a tide gone out, leaving a trail of sea glass. You're red clay oozing between my fingers. You're the loft in an old-fashioned house. You're a lamp with a gold fringe. You're a game of tug and war. You're a watermelon sunk to the bottom of the pool. Your hands are birds. Your hands are stones at the bottom of the river. Your hands are child's eyes. Your hands are doorknobs. Your hands are where they keep the money. Your eyes are seagulls. Your eyes are a woman running up a hill. Your lips are caterpillars. Your lips are toothpicks. Your lips are two moons biting like a tiger. Your thought is quicksand. Your thoughts are cartons of milk in a convenience store. Your thought is a man playing a wooden instrument on an island. Your thoughts are tangles of grass by the shore. Your thoughts are the letter Z. Your body is an African plane. Your body is a helicopter flying over LA. Your body is a silent movie.
Well, my name is Karen Schaum, and I teach kindergarten through 8th grade at the Sussex School. And I'm happy to say this is my second year with the Collaborative, and we're starting to do free workshops for the public. We did one last month, the 4 of us. So what you do is you come do a workshop and you write your very own poem, and you get to perform with Dick and sound like a star all within 35 minutes. And we're going to do one again on Saturday. What time are we meeting? 1 to 3 on Saturday at the library. And it's free, and I recommend coming just for the chance of fingering some of Dick's instruments. I'm always surprised that I ask my students to, just whip out a poem in 15 minutes. And so I thought I'd try that myself. And so this is the poem that I wrote at our last workshop. I taught chant poems. I brought in a Ferlinghetti poem based on the idea of waiting. So this is what I came up with at that time. And it's before the elections. I have a line in here that says, I am waiting for the elections to be over. And now I sort of wish we could do it all over again. But just give me a waiting beat. I am waiting for Ed McMahon to call me up on my remote phone and tell me I've won $1 million. I'd run outside while talking to him and do a hula dance in the front yard. Right there, among the dry, tumbled-down leaves and wind-worn political signs. Afterwards, I'd buy a big house and throw a party for everyone in Missoula. The chief of police and fire inspectors would be welcome. I'd serve coconut milkshakes and gourmet chocolates from the Bon Marché. We'd play pin the tail on the pumpkin, and I'd give neon-colored yo-yos to everyone over 50 and $1,000 IRAs to all the children. I'm waiting for winter to come and the elections to be over. I'm waiting to turn up the heat and climb in bed for a very long time and sleep. So this workshop we did was geared towards young adults. And we had everyone from graduate school students to junior high. Everyone's welcome, really. Think of yourself as a young adult. But I thought I'd bring in a few poems that I wrote as a young adult, right out of high school. And they're 3 very, very short poems. But I'm going to try and let there be a lot of space between them so we can hear some of Dick's instruments. I'm going to start off with a chattering kind of poem. These stones sit, piled upon each other like so much chatter. After walking 3,000 miles, the sound the ocean makes right before a wave breaks upon the beach is the slight pause in the moment of bending down into a seat. The wind is a bird, tossing the sky all around. Sparrows in my hair. This next poem is based on a poem that Sally just read. We were up on the top of Mount Jumbo. I'm pregnant, and so it was like a big joy to actually find that I had the energy to walk to the top of Mount Jumbo after 3 months of wallowing. I'm in that 4th month where I'm supposed to get all that energy and glow back. So we were up there, and I was saying, Sally, I just don't understand metaphor, and I'm supposed to teach poetry, right? So she starts, winging all these metaphors off. And I thought I'd try it. So I went home and I tried it, and today I wrote this poem. And it's really just 4 snippets of poems. It doesn't have the extended joy of Sally's, but it's metaphors about house and family. I don't know what kind of beat to do to this one. Give it all you got. Home is a house with no roof. My mother says she's the walls. She says my sister and I are furniture. My father comes once a month, otherwise the mailbox sits empty. We stay up late eating guavas. The kitchen feels sticky. We have a book of blue chip stamps. What we really want is money. My mother is a mixed drink. Her head all gin, her body fizzy. She's a thin leaf on a tall tree. On windy days, she has a legitimate fear of falling. My sister's life looks like a bikini, all color and string. Her story gets a knot in it before she even wears it. On Christmas, my father stands in a box. No one bothered to open. If he were Texas, I'd be the state of Virginia. This poem is called The Box, and it's about a time in my life where everything seemed very surreal. It's right when my mom was dying of cancer. My mother sits on the black wobbly footstool in the living room, telephone receiver in her lap. I hear a woman's voice repeating a short question. The voice sounds automated, but I'm not certain. One of my mother's eyes circles under its shut lid. The other stares straight forward. I've got a safety deposit box in Modesto, she says. Stooping down, I ask what she means about the box and fumble between her legs for the phone. Her pajamas smell like chicken soup. Her body slumps forward. I know I should coax her back to bed, but I get a little desperate, wondering how much money's involved. Her closed eyelid twitches. She talks. Inside cedar lid, red calico, hundreds of bills with scented animals. I copy down her instructions. This next poem is based on a game of Scrabble. About 5 of us played Scrabble one night, then we all went home and wrote poems. It's called Zoo. Guess if that was one of the words or not. And I wrote it before I found out that I was going to have a baby, so please don't take any note of the tone. Zoo. This is kind of a blue velvet feel. My knees flop against the sides of the tub. I touch the white scars on my thighs, letting my fingers slide down the curve of my legs. I know they're watching, but I want to feel myself in the warm water. How small the tender hole is. The baby lies in his stainless steel crib. He's so quiet. Has he learned to breathe? They taped a name in blue block letters to the headboard, Eggy. Fixed it while I was under. We both have plastic ID bracelets. Mine says I'm the mother of the child. His gives name and date of birth. This morning, one of the males unjammed the dumbwaiter with a long lever. They brought him through the ceiling on a mechanized ladder. I thought I might recognize this one, but I didn't. A mob of guards in neon tartan jumpsuits circled the worker, their guns drawn. They motioned for me to crouch down, holed up in the corner with my head down. I made a turd, throwing it over their heads as skeet. One startled and shot his Uzi, just missing the tinted glass, peppering the back wall with metal pieces. They took my blankets and the last of my clothes, back to fate, ruled twice a day with gritty paste, vitamins mashed in for the baby's sake. They think they're so clever. Nutritional supplements are a hoax. We need the real thing. Otherwise, our bodies won't metabolize it. For nursing mothers, plenty of greens, chard and spinach, nuts, kiwis and bananas instead of sweets, and the lion's share of well-trimmed meat. I lift the baby out of the crib and into the tub. My nipples ooze, but I don't feed him my yummy milk. I push his wrinkled face under water, making him struggle. It's good to know he's alive in a strange sort of way. My feelings for him have neither grown nor abated. Yes, abated was one of the words, as well as turd and oozy. Thanks, Dick. I'm going to finish up with an older poem. It's called Standing. I don't know what to tell you here. This is completely improv. We've never done this before, so it's kind of fun to hear what happens. I'll let you start. a movie once about standing, about how to stand at a funeral, straight back, bowed head, one hand holding the wrist of the other. If there are flowers involved, say tulips, the blossoms droop down. And if the tulips are yellow, tilted at just the right angle, I'll be standing in a circle at James Jeffries' funeral. James, who jumped from the grain silo. His body was lying flat on the gravel. Who found the body? Who went into the rainy night not expecting to see James Jeffries? Who went to the movie in time to buy pale yellow flowers? If the body were found in the river, I think I'd understand better. Somebody told me they found the body in the river. Impossible. James jumped from the silo. He saw himself dead. He kicked his legs out from the rim, straightening his body as the ground grew closer. We stand in the park, the tulips doing what tulips do. Thank you. That's just you, Dick.
Wow. Anybody else bring anything to read? Is that part of the deal?
This series is intended also not only to bring great writers to be heard, but also to hear great writings from young people. And so I welcome you to join the writers tonight with your own works. And if not tonight, maybe next week. We'll be meeting again next week at the library, and that will be a night to feature student works and teachers' works. So I would welcome you to next Tuesday evening at 7:30 at the public library. And again,
And Saturday, our workshop
oh
is
yeah,
Saturday.
and a workshop Saturday from 1 to 3 with Sally and Cheryl and Karen and Dick. So you are very welcome to attend. And also I'd like to thank Harley again for letting us tape this
Thanks, Harley.
at Bojangles. Thanks a lot, Harley. Well, do we have some writers wanting to share tonight? Next week, 7:30 at the library. Thanks a lot for being here tonight. And thank you, Cheryl.